Start the recording and I'll do the intro. How's that? Thank you to everybody for coming this afternoon. We do almost every year we do a session we like to call tips and tricks. And this year we decided that we would focus it a little bit more because a lot of people are now doing synchronous online instruction, which is something that's relatively new to most of us. And so we asked around about who are some people that have done this before and would be really good resources for telling people some things to look out for and some successes that they've had before. So we came up with three really good online instructors. We have Dave Baker, who is a physics instructor, Denise Martin, who's associate dean, but she's also a HIT instructor, and Chantel McNeil, who is medical sonography. So we will let them take it away.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay, so welcome. If you don't know me, my name is Denise Martin. I'm the Associate Dean of Health Sciences and Human Services, and I'm also an HIT instructor, that's Health Information Technology. I'm going to start us off today, and hopefully I can share my screen in just a second, but I'm going to show you a little bit, before we get to the synchronous learning, I'm going to show you a little bit about how to organize a Blackboard course, and I'm going to show you what I'm doing this year for virtual office hours and for syllabus and course orientation. So let me share here. All right, can everybody see that with the hands?
Yes.
Okay, so what I'm going to start with is I'm going to talk you through, so a lot of us have moved classes that were previously taught fully seated now to either hybrid or fully online, which has made us done a lot of change for us. And so one thing, this is a course that I helped revamp a little bit. It was a hybrid course, and this semester it's a fully online course. And I want to show you some of the things that we've done to help. So this is HSE 110, which is an intro course. A lot of students that take this course have never taken a course in the Human Services Technology program before. They could also have never taken an online course at all and could be new to our college. So this is typically a first year brand new student course. So we really thought through how we're going to make this as user friendly for students that just are not used to how we do courses. One of the things that I did when you go into the course introduction that they have, so everybody in Blackboard, you've got this Start Here button. So in the course introduction, two things that I've done differently is I've made a course tour video. So I did a video of, normally in class on the first day of class, we'll do a Blackboard orientation and we'll kind of show them where to find stuff in the class, how to submit things, where the syllabus is, all of those things that I normally show my students on first day in class. I made a video so that way it's basically the same thing as me showing them, but for our visual learners, there's also, if you look, there's all this to read, and not everybody's going to read that, and that's the honest truth. So I wanted to make an orientation video, just kind of letting them know, and then I also did a syllabus review video. So again, what we normally do seated in classes face-to-face with our students, where we point out the different things like when assignments are due, or do we take late work, or what is our penalty for stuff coming in late, or is there a project, that kind of stuff. I did that in a video. So those are two things that I've done that I've never done before. So that's new in kind of thinking through our first year students and what they're going to need and what we normally do for them in the classroom, and now how we are doing things differently. So just like when we're going to do a synchronous class, I'm trying to think through what does day one of class look like, and that's what we've done for week one of this class. So basically everything we would have done, we have done here. The other thing that I want to show you is how we're doing virtual office hours. So that's new again for all of us. We're now having to do virtual office hours. So I set up in Blackboard Collaborate. So I'm going to click there. So I've got the Collaborate tab enabled in this course, and I have set up a tab. So this instructor here, I've set it up so that it starts on the first day of class and it ends on the last day of class. And it's basically an open link. Right now it's hidden because it has a started yet, but on Monday, this will be a live link. So the instructor has a place to go to talk to anybody. So during her office hours, Fridays from 1 to 3, she'll be here in Blackboard just waiting to see if anybody happens to pop in. But also, she's got this live link that's open for the whole semester, so she can just copy and paste the link. So if a student needs to meet with her outside of her office hours, she can send them a quick link, and then they can chat virtually through Collaborate. And I also created an announcement, so I'll show you what that looks like, that we're going to have in the whole course. Now I don't find it. Don't make me lie. I guess I hadn't put it in this class yet. Anyway, I have an announcement that has a link also that we're going to have kind of in the course the whole time, that has a quick way for the students to click on. So there's a couple different ways that the instructor can communicate with her students virtually for the virtual office hours. So that's the other new thing. And then some of the other things, if you've never done an online course before, I just kind of want to show you in the course resources, we have our course syllabus. And we put it in 2 different ways. We have a digital download where they can download the PDF, but then we have copied and pasted the whole syllabus right in here, including the course calendar. So this makes it really easy for students to look up our policies, like if we want to know what the weighting is, our course calendar about when stuff is due. So that's something that we use in online courses to help students understand. So again, in the classroom setting, we would normally, at the end of every class, we might have a slide or just a reminder about, hey guys, you know, this is due next week. But now when we're teaching either hybrid or fully online courses, we have to think about different ways that we communicate to the students when stuff is due. So if you were having synchronous classes, you would put it in this course calendar saying, for instance, every Tuesday from 10 to 11, we expect you to be here in class. And so this is a place that we use to communicate with our students. So this is a fully online class. We don't have a synchronous session in this class, but this is where you could easily communicate. So that way everything is together, all of the assignments and due dates, but specifically so the students understand that they have to show up for your synchronous class just like they would show up to a seated class. And so if you don't do that for your syllabus, I recommend not just having it as an upload because that's a requirement, but actually pasting the whole thing in so that way the students can see the whole thing. If they're just looking on their phone, they can pull it up really quickly, or whatever device that they have, because I found that a lot of students don't download the documents, so they don't download the PDF. And so in an online class, they don't always read the syllabus at all until there's a problem. So in this class, I've done a video and we've got it all in here completely together. So that was kind of my brief overview of the part that I wanted to share. I'm going to turn it over to Miss Chantel McNeil, and she's going to talk to you about how she does synchronous classes, and then Dr. Baker will go, and then we'll have some time at the end for questions. So once we're all done, we've basically allotted a little bit of time for questions. So if you have any questions about this for any of us, just let us know, and we're happy to answer questions after we've gone through everything.
Hi, everyone. Just like Martin said, I'm Chantel McNeil. I'm the program director for medical sonography. And some of the things that we did for synchronous online learning, I found that actually worked was usually in class when we're face-to-face. I usually like to start off the class by speaking with the students about anything that happened that was exciting or good that happened since the last time we met. So that's something that I still incorporated in our online courses. I found that this actually breaks the ice a little bit and lets the students relax, and it kind of opens up more dialogue between the instructor and the students. As you know, sonography is actually a very hands-on program, so it's not the easiest courses to teach online, but opening up with just talking about our weekend or talking about something that happened that was strange since the last time we all met actually opens up a lot of where people can actually relax and actually start talking. Also, since their ultrasound is very hands-on, like I said, I incorporated a lot of videos that we could watch during our lectures so that we can watch together and have an opportunity to actually ask questions. I would also have things at home, like I would bring a transducer to show, like in terms of orientation, because when the pandemic hit, our students were literally in the first semester of ultrasound. So these students had a disadvantage because they had no idea really how to scan, or everything was new. So it was a lot for us to take on. But if you are able to start off with something outside of the course, like things like the weather or what's going on in the world, I've noticed that the students are a little bit more relaxed and actually start to talk, because you want to keep the students engaged while you're online. So we just did breaking the ice. I would do quizzes that we would actually answer all together. Then I would start off with my lecture, lots of videos, lots of questions to make sure the students are understanding what you're saying. And during or throughout the lecture, we actually gave the students opportunities to ask questions. If a student had a question and we didn't know the answer to, we would all turn in the textbook, find the answer, and explain why that was the answer to the questions. Also, in the beginning of our lectures, I would also like to do a review of what we learned the prior session. So I would do maybe 10 or 15 questions to see if anyone knew those answers, and if not, I would hit the high notes on things they should remember and go forth with our courses. And generally at the end of our course, or at the end of our lecture that day, I would tell the students what to look forward to for the next course, or the next time we met, like what time we will start again, things they needed to review before our next class, and any videos they needed to watch on their own time. So I think ultrasound has been really a struggle for us to learn and to teach online. But if you incorporate things that you would do in the classroom face to face, I think it can be a little bit better for the students and also for the instructor. Because speaking to a computer is actually hard for me. I prefer actually face to face, and actually can read the students' facial expressions to see if they're understanding what you're saying. So that was a struggle for me as well, and the rest of our instructors, but I feel that the students are actually doing a lot better. And most of our courses are hybrid, meaning that we are doing a portion of our course online, but we still have to come to campus and do labs, because we have to actually know how to scan what we're learning in our course. But so just some tips is just keeping your online course as similar as possible to what you would do face to face, and making sure the students are engaged by asking questions, showing videos, and having them interact in the lecture, and not just reading something to them and just thinking that they have it. Just asking those questions throughout your lecture, and at the end of the day or the end of the class, just making sure you ask questions to see if everyone's on the same page. And if there's any questions, I usually would stay over if it was needed to answer any questions, and direct students of where they needed to read more if they were still struggling. And that is all I have for synchronous learning.
All right, I guess that's me then, right? Let's make sure that we allow the camera to show up. There we go. Okay. So hi everybody, I'm Dave Baker. First, thanks to Denise and Chantel. I actually learned something myself. So school is never out. I'm going to take a little bit of a different approach, and unfortunately, because my Chromebook is a Chromebook and very, well, it's a little weak sauce, it's a little small, and it doesn't have the processing power to do both a Google Meet session and a Blackboard Collaborate session. I'm going to have to sort of just talk you through what happens. When we went online in March, my physics students were used to having me get up and sort of walk around. I'm very animated at the board, and then I had to fix all that and change it to an online-only situation. And the way that I came up with it to work with this was to have a touchscreen Chromebook, and these are I don't know, I think they're on the order of like $200. And you know, Rodney, if you want to throw us some cash, we can all just have one. That'd be great. No?
Here you go. I'll give you
But
all
it
I
does have a
have
little
right
stylus. Understood. But it does have the advantage of having a pencil-like stylus and an Android operating system, which means that you can use I use a program called Squid, which is it captures any writing that you do on the screen. Now, the problem with that is that if you have an entire blank screen and you're writing on it, either your students need to unmute, which many of them are uncomfortable with, or they need to ask questions in the Google Chat, right? So you're connected via Google Chat, you're sharing your screen. This also works for Collaborate as well. But they want to ask a question, or they want to interrupt in some way to get your attention so that you're not talking over their heads or missing them. What I found was that it was easier to actually have two computers to make this happen. And again, Rodney, I think that gift money could help. But you have a second computer that is, you could even use your phone actually and connect to that Google Meet so that all of the questions will come in through on a separate device so that you can get a list of all those questions, and you can save the questions for later so that you can incorporate that stuff into your next week's lecture. It helps to have rapport with the students. I honestly am a little bit concerned about what's going to happen this fall. Last year I had a full 6 months to build a rapport with my students in person, and it worked a whole lot better. And so they were definitely willing to come along with me. So I think a lot the lesson there is to do as much as you possibly can to build that rapport with your students, even in the online environment. It is going to be absolutely essential for them to come along with you on that journey. And for those of you who were in Hyro's discussion just previously, there were a lot of good tips and tricks in that too. So if you get a chance, go back and watch that recording if at all possible. The last thing that I would say, that there are some technical issues with with doing it my way, or the Google way, as it were, in that if you accidentally scroll up in the chat, it will not automatically scroll down. So I had a whole lot of students asking me these questions and they weren't showing up. And so many of them did not want to unmute their microphone or turn on their videos that I went through an entire lecture one time not realizing that my microphone was off and nobody was really helping me. But these are the things, I guess, after COVID, we're all sort of, we're pros at Zoom meetings, so maybe now we're better at this. But early on, I had to learn a lot. And so hopefully it will work better in the fall. And that's all I have, really. There are some things that I can help specifically, but they seem a little bit narrow focused for this particular session.
Okay, so who's got questions? We are here. Depending on what question you have, let us know. How can we help? Is there anything you want us to show you again? Anything? Let us know. Who's going to go first?
And you can either use your microphone, you can turn on your camera, or you can just type it into the chat box in the bottom right. So I'll kind of maybe start a little bit. So, I mean, maybe most of us have taught online in the past. Are there any major differences between teaching synchronously and asynchronously online that you found? Is it the same? Is it more difficult? Is it easier?
I'm going to echo Chantel's notion that it is really hard to talk to a camera. What I find myself doing, and I do this on all my Zoom chats, is that I look at the people, and the people are in the screen because it makes me feel like that. But are my eyes looking at you right now? They're not. You have to act, right? You sort of have to look directly into the camera and make sure you're looking. It's going to feel really, really weird. And it's actually very tiring for our brains don't like this. Like, we're not set up for this kind of thing. And so after your session, it's really important to take a break, turn everything off, for a walk, reset your brain to talk to real human beings or your dog or your cat or whatever you've got around, because it is very tiring. It's very tiring to do this kind of work. If you remember what you're up to, you can create a lot of eye contact as long as you're looking at that little lit up camera.
I would say too, I know that I always found that I'd get very frustrated and discouraged when I would teach a synchronous session. Students wouldn't show up or they wouldn't engage. I would post a question or a poll. Like, I felt like I put a lot of work into organizing a lesson, and then I feel like half of them were just like on their phones or whatever. So one thing that I require is that the camera is on the whole time. They're not allowed to turn their cameras off unless they need to like use the restroom, and I just kind of tell them that if their camera is off, I'm assuming that they have left the room, and you know, if their camera is off for too long, I'm going to mark them absent in the class. So I expect the camera to be on the whole time, and then I expect them to participate. So I like to use the poll feature and question feature in Collaborate to engage and just make sure they're awake and paying attention to me. Shauna, did you have a question?
Yeah, this has just come up in our department meeting, but as far as connectivity issues are concerned, one of the things that was recommended is actually having the students turn off their video.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
I might
if it
answer
works
that,
for
and
you,
that
that's
Denise.
great.
Yeah, Denise has a unique perspective because her department, HIT, and it's in special is a fully online program, and so they require that every student have good connectivity because they're going to be working online when they're out in as a job. For
Yes.
gen ed courses and things like that, it's probably, there are lots of other reasons, equity and inclusion type reasons as well, that you may not want a camera turned on. And so I think our general recommendation would be, if you feel comfortable turning on your camera, turn it on, unless you're in a program like HIT that is going to require you have a camera on. So I agree with you, Shauna, that yeah, there's you may not want it on, right? Students may not want it on.
I feel that the sort of mantra for this fall, anytime that we're going forward in on normal circumstances, is going to be forgiveness, forgiveness, forgiveness. These are the times when a little bit of grace can go a long way. And so err on the side of, they may be taking advantage of you, but so.
Yeah,
I thought I
forgiveness
mentioned
and
one thing
understanding.
about, well, one thing I thought I mentioned is something about the office hours. I also set up office hours in the spring for my classes, but I went ahead and had office hours for all my classes at the same time. So I set up my Blackboard office hours separately in the Blackboard Collaborate, not in a class. And I set up an announcement in each of the classes that I sent out again as a text, or excuse me, as an email every time I started my office hours. I had the connection link, so the students would get an email, "Hi, I'm in office hours now," and have the connection right there where they could link to it right away.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Just like you would be if you're sitting in your office on campus, right? It doesn't matter what class they're in; they're still welcome to stop by. So
Yep,
same
any of the classes
idea.
can come by to that same one. Yeah.
Does anybody have any other questions, any comments, things we can explain, go further into depth about?
I have a question. Have you tried any of the other video conferencing tools like Zoom or Google Meet besides Collaborate? What's your favorite and why?
Does anybody, who wants to go first?
I prefer Zoom. I like Zoom because to me it seems clearer, and it can handle more people on at the same time. I have a lot of issues with Blackboard Collaborate, but for the classes, of course, I do use Zoom. But I actually like Google Meet and Zoom better than Blackboard Collaborate in terms of technology and how it works, the features.
Yeah, I like Zoom for a great many things, but the absence of a school account means that, yeah, as some people noted, we're limited to 40 minutes, and it's not always accessible. So I use Google Meet, and it tends to work well, and because I tend to be a Google ecosystem kind of person, for things I can get vertically integrated there. But Zoom, I think all of these are starting to be sort of all on the same basic level, and it's just down to preference.
I thought that we were actually required, as per the faculty expectations thing that Brian sent out the other day, that we have to use Collaborate for our classes.
Well, that is be a problem because I don't have that set up.
Yeah, I don't know that it was said that way. I think we call it Collaborate because it's a tool that we provide and we pay a lot of money for it. But it's recommended you use it because it does go through our LMS and there is a record of it then. It's a little bit easier for us to keep track of and things like that. But I don't know if it's absolutely required like
It
that
says
to use.
record all lectures that occur in Blackboard Collaborate. So maybe that's
Yeah,
interpreted that.
you can record them in Google. Yeah, that's so that you can post them later. And we would prefer that those kinds of things occur. And the reason we want to record them and post them is because if a kid does or a student does have problems, then they can go back and access it later. You can do the same thing in Google Meet. I don't think that. I think the emphasis is on the record, not on the collaborate in that particular sentence.
Okay.
And he's just using collaborate because that's our institutional product that we pay for, right? Robert?
For the recorded sessions, are we supposed to supply captions and transcripts?
That would be best. Google Meet does that while you're in it, right? You can't do that in Collaborate, but Google Meet will do that. It's a feature on Google Meet. You can just turn it on for live captioning. You cannot do that in Collaborate. It would be best if you did. We understand that a lot of people probably will not, and if you do not have a person that is hearing impaired in if you have a person that's hearing impaired, you're going to be required to do that.
I want to
Yeah.
say what I use for captioning is YouTube. So I'll record something in Collaborate, and then I wait for the video to show that it's available. It's a bunch of steps, but then I upload it into my YouTube channel, and I let YouTube do the captioning. It's not perfect because it doesn't use punctuation or capitalization, which annoys me a little bit. But it gets, I would say, probably 99% of the words that I'm saying. It does a fairly good job of doing that. And then once it's ready, then I embed the YouTube link into my Blackboard. So that's how I would do it. So if I was doing a synchronous class and wanted to record it, I would go ahead and do that process. I would record my class. Then afterwards, I would probably upload it to YouTube just for the automatic captioning. And then when I posted it for the whole class, I would post it with the closed captioning option. And using YouTube has been the easiest thing that I've found. There's probably better things out there, but that's how I do any video that I'm putting in Blackboard that's going to be watched, by students more than one. Especially like I showed you, I did my course introduction and syllabus videos, so they're all closed captioned, and I did that through YouTube.
Yeah, and if you have questions about exactly how to do that, yeah, I would. Yeah, then you can post the YouTube link. I would recommend that if you have questions about exactly how to take your Collaborate to YouTube and do all that, Lisa Knight has a protocol written out for exactly the steps to follow to do it. Contact Lisa Knight directly, and she will email you exactly the right steps to do it. Audra, it doesn't take very long to close caption it if it's a reasonable length video.
Now, should we do that if we're having class discussion?
It would be good. The captioning tends to be a little bit more problematic with the more number of voices you have coming through. But I mean, Yeah, if you're having class discussion and you think that it would be good to have it posted later for someone that is if you have someone that's hearing impaired, you have to do it. If you think it would be good to have for your class, and yeah, absolutely, it would be a good practice to get in the habit of doing.
Thank you.
Yeah, Sean, I think you're right. Everybody does have a YouTube account. If you log into your Google account and you're on Google, you will already have a YouTube account associated with your college, with the college. Angela, you have a question?
I do have a comment really to double check with Amanda. There were lots of concerns about where course sessions that were recorded, if the students were involved, if their faces were on the screen that was recorded, if their names and comments were recorded, then we have to be really careful of how the recording is made available, because only other students in the class can see that to protect the student's privacy. So I guess we just have to be careful that the link to the recording is only available through the Blackboard site associated with the class, not
Yeah.
through YouTube where other people could stumble upon it or
Yeah,
share the link to it.
yeah, you have to make sure it's a private YouTube channel, that it's not a public YouTube channel. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's a great point. What I do in one of the settings, it's been a minute since I've done it, but there's a way that you can set it so that it's not public. And the way that the one that I select is that only people with the link can view the video. So then I just put that video into that Blackboard. So nobody, like people aren't following me on YouTube or anything like that. All of my stuff is only in whatever course that it's in. And most of my videos are just me talking, so like mini lectures and things like the syllabus review and the course introduction. So I have not posted, I haven't done like a synchronous lesson where I've then posted it yet. But I would also recommend making sure that your settings, if you in your YouTube channel, that your channel itself is not public, and that your video, the setting is the one that the one that I use is that only people with the link that you provide can watch the video. So that way, that definitely protects privacy.
Just to get the temperature of whoever's in the room, raise your hand if you are a user of Google Docs rather than Microsoft Word or something else. Yeah, that's just about what I expected. So I also am a user of Google Docs, and I find that they've got a lot of live connections between documents, so you can use spreadsheets and connect those to Word type documents, and I use those for the schedule. And in fact, Denise, you mentioned pasting that schedule right into the announcements. There's a way to do that with Google Docs that will link to a spreadsheet, and every time you update the spreadsheet with a new change, because of course we're going to fall behind on our lesson plans. This is how we roll. And the students are going to say, well, is the test still this week, or is this or that due this week? And you'll have to say, I don't know, let me update the schedule. And then you have to maybe push out a whole new schedule for them. This just automatically pulls it from the spreadsheet. So there are some advantages and disadvantages. And anybody who's interested in sort of a Google Docs training or Google Docs Q&A session, just shoot me an email offline, and I'd be happy to help.
So has anybody here done synchronous classes yet, or are you all just here to kind of learn what this is all about? And if you've done a synchronous class, what are your thoughts?
I don't think a lot of people have done it yet. I think they're
Okay.
getting ready to try it.
Well, why don't we talk about what you're nervous about? What maybe we can help with some of your expectations or your nerves. Somebody tell me what you're most nervous about.
Yeah, student engagement is huge.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, we had a lot of engagement with students who had been seated before and wanted to see what was going to go on online. This fall is going to be a bit different. That's one of my fears as well. That makes me incredibly nervous that I will not be able to engage any of these students no matter how hard I try. Shauna, I think you're correct. Internet connectivity for sure. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I think it takes a lot of dedication from the instructor and the students. And sometimes with all the stuff that's going on, especially in our world right now, it's hard to stay engaged and stay dedicated to something that's online versus if you were face to face.
Mm-hmm.
I would say I like to use humor in my things, so I always start out with like maybe some kind of an icebreaker question that's somewhat funny or humorous or thought-provoking. I like to use a lot of memes. I'll do things like I like to use polls and survey questions. So I do my as best I can to kind of involve them. I make them answer questions, so I do not do a traditional lecture. I kind of break up chunks of information and I like to make it interactive. One good thing about Collaborate, and I've done it in, well, I've been in Zoom meetings, but I've not done it myself, are the breakout sessions. So when you're doing a synchronous class, you can actually break your students up into groups. So just like you would do in a real classroom, break them up into some groups, give them some group work. So assign them, place them into individual breakout rooms. Really use that feature because I think that is a really great way to get them to engage with each other because it's easy for us to engage them because we're in a position of power and that whole psychological part, but getting them to engage with each other I think sometimes is even challenging face to like in a seated classroom. So definitely think about using the breakout rooms and to doing group work and group activities just like you would in a regular classroom. So, and again, Collaborate does that. I use Collaborate. I don't use Zoom. That's just my preference, and just because that's just what I'm used to. But I like to make it as interactive as possible, but not just me and the students, but with the students with each other, just like I would in a classroom. Pair them up, group them up, have them work on problems and case studies and things like that, and then come back together to discuss. So again, and it's a lot of work. So it's more work than just planning a regular lesson because when you're thinking about, okay, in the classroom, all right, we'll do this, then we'll break out, you might have a handout and that's about it. But when you're planning a synchronous lesson online, you have to plan the breakout sessions. You have to make sure your documents are ready to upload. It does take a little bit more planning. So, that's just something to think about is, your time management and just making sure you're prepared. Anybody else have something they're nervous about? Something we can talk you through? I know a lot of people have mentioned about connectivity, and that's definitely a rough one because sometimes we're just at the mercy of our cable provider. So and or the age of our equipment. I know at home I have a PC that's like hardwired in my house, and then I also have a laptop that's Wi-Fi, and so between the two of them, I usually have something, but not everybody has two different things. So my cat. Oh, my cat's name is Dolce. Right now she's being good. Usually she's in my face.
Does Jeff have a question? Jeff, you have your hand up. Do you have a question?
Bye, Caroline. So why don't you guys share with us some of your ideas? So who's got an idea that they're going to try in their first synchronous class? What's somebody going to do? Kahoot? Okay.
Kahoot's good. Mm-hmm.
Liza, how are you going to do that, like with your technology? Have you thought through? Okay. Anybody else? What are some other things that you guys are planning on doing? Okay, so Liza, you're going to use your cell phone and share your screen. That's great. I love using Kahoot. It probably will work better in students' homes than in some of the buildings on our campus. So I've had some struggles. I don't know why, but the Harnett Health Science Center is just not my friend always when we try to do Kahoot. Although they did install another like hotspot in the hallway, so hopefully I have not taught since then though. But who else is going to try something new? What are you going to try?
I can actually add something. I usually use interactive study guides. So a couple of days before my online lecture, I will send out a study guide that has fill in the blank. So while I'm actually teaching, the students can actually write down things. And if they don't listen, they will miss certain aspects of the study guide. And those questions are usually on my exam. So that helps the student also pay attention and be engaged while we're in our lecture. I know that really works really well. At first, the students didn't like it, but now they understand the purpose of it, and so they're always paying attention, and that is one way to really get your students to pay attention in your class.
Podcasts from dental hygienists that have tried new podcasts for the dimensions of dental hygiene. I think they like to listen to other things that are happening in the profession, so we're going to try that.
That's awesome. And how are you going to do that with your technology?
Well, I'm just going to share the Apple podcast with the students. So not all of them will have an Apple device. So those are the things I need to work through for sure. That and videos from the field, but I have to upload them through YouTube, make sure the subtitles can come on so they're all accessible to anyone with any special needs.
That's awesome. Is there any kind of converter that would convert, like if you don't have an Apple product?
That I haven't thought through, but I'm hoping to figure that out by week 3.
That's awesome.
The podcast again?
So this is for week 3, but podcasts are for week 3. So I'm really hoping that from now in week 3, I will figure it out because I'm also new to podcasts, but we'll see. iTunes works on PCs. Thanks, Amy. I'll have to try that for sure.
Awesome.
What's the name of the podcast again?
It's from the Dimensions of Dental Hygiene, and I'll tell you it right now. Let me see. Hold on. So the podcast is the Dental Podcast Network, Channel 1. It was released yesterday. The Dental Podcast Network's Channel 1, A Tale of Two Hygienists.
That's awesome, Danielle.
So it should just be audio. The deal with the selling point of podcasts, as it were, is that they are not platform dependent. They don't care about what device you're using. They don't care where you get it from. You should just be able to pick it up anywhere. So
cool.
Yeah, and of course now Dimensions of Dental Hygiene is loading exceptionally slow for me. Love it.
Yeah, me too, Dave. I tried it. I googled it as well, so I'm trying to get on it.
Yeah. So if you can find what's an RSS feed or a specific pod catcher, which is the app on your phone that will allow you to download these things. I personally use one called Antenna Pod, and as long as you can find it there, as long as it's on the iTunes list, they'll be able to download it to their phone or their computer or wherever it is. You should be that set with that.
Thank you so much, Antenna Pod. I had no idea they had podcast catchers either. That's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, iHeartRadio is a big podcast purveyor as well. So they just catch lots and lots of them and just recast them basically. So
I'll try that.
I'm
Some
looking
of
for
the
your
faculty,
dimensions of dental hygiene.
you are.
I don't
Some of
see
the
it.
faculty at UNC are trying. It's called, let me see, Dental One, but they are actually developing their own podcast in the dental hygiene program at Carolina. So I thought, well, I can try it. I can do it.
Yeah, if you just go to
Might as well.
iHeartRadio and search for dental hygiene, there's dentistry, there's dozens and dozens of podcasts actually about dentistry and dental hygiene. So unless you're married to that one particular podcast, there may be lots of options for what you want to do.
We might as well try. I've never done it, so we should try variety. Spice it up. Thank you. I didn't know about that antenna. And Dr. Powell, I have to check it out because I'm totally new to podcasts, other than like books and things, personal ones.
Anybody else want to share something that they're going to try, or maybe just something you're thinking about, and we can kind of all weigh in and give you some ideas? What about labs? Is anybody going to use synchronous lab time?
Synchronous lab time? Oh, Lord.
I am terrified of what my lab is going to turn into.
I know not everybody can do. I know, Chantel, you can't do synchronous lab because you need hands-on with your equipment. But is anybody going to try something interesting in a lab assignment so far? No? Yes? No? Come on, Dr. Powell.
I may turn mine into a
Just
forum.
make stuff at home and, see how it goes.
Actually, I'm thinking about getting up with Chef Ham, and we're going to do, I don't know if you guys watch the Food Network at all, but Alton Brown does like a show that does a lot of like cooking and explaining the chemistry behind it sometimes. And so maybe Chef Ham and I should do like a chemistry cooking thing for synchronous learning or something. That way we could have people in their kitchen following along or something.
I think that'd be awesome.
We could do that as continuing ed, maybe. That's probably, maybe we could increase FTE for the college or something. Man.
Has anybody changed their quiz from the default?
Yes.
Yes.
I know a lot of students come into my orientation quizzes and they're just like, wait, you ask questions that aren't the same across everybody's? I'm so confused.
Yeah, no. That is a relic of maybe before you came to work at the college, Dave, that when we first started teaching way more online and we decided, we have to have a way to ease students in. And so we went to a universal standard orientation quiz. And then we slowly accepted that, this isn't the only academic thing that we might be able to use to judge if they're actually there. So, yeah. Realization that any academic work counts, not just this quiz, is a good thing. So
yeah.
I also do a discussion board quiz as part of my orientation because the classes that I primarily teach are 100% online, and I grade pretty significantly in the discussion because that's really the only way we engage with each other. And I make them do a discussion board quiz because I require that they do their initial post by Wednesday every week, and that it's 200 words. And that they then respond on another day to ask a question of their classmate, and then they answer their classmate's question. So it's pretty complicated, and so I put it in several different places in the like in an announcement and in the orientation. But I'm really particular with how we engage in the discussion boards in my online classes, and sometimes it takes them a week or two to kind of figure it out, and then they kind of sail through. But that's another thing that I've added as my orientation. They have to do the anti-plagiarism quiz, a course introduction quiz, and a discussion board quiz to have completed orientation in the health information technology program classes. Just because we have technology requirements, and then we have very particular things that we're doing within because every class is online. But that's one thing that I've also customized is I've added that discussion board quiz to make sure that they understand that that first post is due on Wednesday and 3 separate days. So they love me. They really do.
At least that's what you tell yourself to get yourself to sleep at night, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
They tell me at the end of my course reviews too. They tell me how much they love me, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I can tell you this. I think all my years in education, here's what students do. As long as you're fair and consistent, they respect that. And so you
Yeah.
can ask a lot of them, but if you're fair and consistent, and by consistency, I mean a lot of things. You treat them all fair, equally, and you're consistent in your class, right? I mean, like, your homework is due every Sunday night, and your quizzes are due every Tuesday, and your labs are due every Friday. They know what to expect. They get into a rhythm of the class, and every class has their own rhythm, right? And so some weeks homeworks are more, some weeks are less because you cover more or less material, but they know what to expect, and they appreciate that, right? And there's anybody that's raised little children, they know that establishing that pattern or training a dog, as mine are sleeping beside me, you got to be consistent, and they know what to expect then. And so then when they come to you and go, oh, I didn't know homework was due, you're like, well, it's been due for the last 7 weeks on Sunday night, right? I mean, it's always due on Sunday night. You should know that. Well, I'm busy on Sunday. Well, you could have done it Monday through Saturday, right? I mean, there are options there, and they respect that. They understand that. Hey.
That's why I like cats. They don't bark. They just sleep in their beds like good little kitties.
Sorry, my wife just came downstairs and he was sleeping next to me, and when she came down, I think it startled him, and he's just like, "What's going on?" So he wakes up and starts barking. So that's, as you're recording your class videos, that's always a good thing to have happen too, right? So, yeah. Well, it looks like it's kind of dying out a little. Appreciate you guys all coming today. I appreciate all the people that participated this afternoon and asked questions. I appreciate our panelists coming this afternoon. This was recorded. It is still being recorded. So what we'll do is Aaron will download it, and we'll go ahead and post it without captions. It'll eventually be captioned. But all of the sessions this week are being downloaded and will be posted on the CA webpage for future reference. So we appreciate you guys and all that you offer, and we look forward to working with you throughout the semester. Remember, we now have 2 instructional designers at your call. So Lisa Knight and Jamie McLeod started today. So not that they're looking for more work, but they are always willing to answer questions for people. So thank you, everybody, for coming, and we'll see everybody soon.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks.